Pocket Keeper, or hi gang. This week has been a really wet, cold and miserable week here. We've had top temperatures of about 10 or 11 degrees some days, which means about 50 to 52 degrees in Fahrenheit for my friends over in the States. Which means that a lot of our warm weather harvesting is done. Even our cool weather harvests are settled in, and most of them have been lost. So we haven't actually had an awful lot from the garden, and there's not an awful lot to do, which means we're mostly stuck inside.
Bok, I'm Mandy O. This is Grow, Make, Cook, and welcome to my garden. I grew up in Australia in a permaculture family, but after we got married, Mr. O and I moved here to his home country of Croatia. I am a passionate and hands-on homemaker and gardener, and I love life's simple pleasures. So join me on my journey, and together we can learn to grow, make, and cook. This is the first week of October or listopad.
So, I'm here working on my much beloved cardigan that has had to have all of the patching and repairing. So you can see a lot of the bits that have needed repairing, and I caved. I actually bought some brown yarn so that I could texture the front of it to cover some of my small moth holes. But this is quite a long process, the recovering and remaking of a garment. We'll have to see how it turns out in the end, but a lot of these very quiet, calm, homey type tasks are what's filling my days, which doesn't actually show you very much about the garden at all, I'm afraid. That said, we're thinking of moving our weekly episode to a monthly episode. So I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts, opinions and views in the comments below. I have had a couple of questions about my hairdos. And I'm not a beauty channel. I don't deal with beauty products or beauty regimes, but seeing as I've had multiple questions about the things that I put in my hair, I thought I would share one of my super easy go-to hairstyles, which means I have to take this updo out. Okay, so I thought I would share with you guys today one of my little DIY favorite hair accessories, one of my really easy go-to styles for longish hair like mine. So I start with some wired ribbon of, just about any length really. That means ribbon that has wire in both the edges, so here and here, to make it a little bit firm. All I do is either in a single loop or a double, just tie it into a knot so that it makes a loop, a flat loop. And then squish him flat so that it makes a nice flat thing like that. I grab the knot, pull my hair through, wrap my hair around the knot once, just to get it started, tuck the tails in, roll it up, roly-poly, until you get to, I don't know if you can see that very clearly there, but until you get to a nice length. Now if you're doing it at the back of your head, it's nice to sit just at the nape of your neck, but I like asymmetric hairdos, so I tend to wear them on the side. Tie it closed, fluff up your bow. The wire means that your shape of your bow will hold nicely. And you've got something that looks a little bit fancy and a little bit glamorous with a little bit of a, I don't know, poofy bun, semicircular bun, but it's really, really easy. Now that the rain has finally given us a little bit of a break, it's sprinkling very, very gently, I can get out and I can plant my garlic. Now this is garlic I saved from the garlic I grew last year, and I kept it, and then to be honest with you, I just stuck it in some compost and then forgot about it, and then it shot up. So I'm going to plant them out into, this is my onions type bed. So I've got my leeks in here and a whole bunch of other things, but this is the bed that this year I'm doing for rotation for onion or allium type things. My style of planting with all of my vegetables is actually really, really relaxed. And so I just stick my fingers down deep into the earth. What I want is for about actually the length of my fingers to go down into the earth quite a ways so that this has lots of room to swell and grow. Now, the reason you plant garlic now so that it will be exposed to the cold is so that it will split and divide and make a whole clove. What will happen is if you planted garlic and it stayed very warm, it would never vernalize, it would never split apart, it would never make individual cloves. What you would end up with is one big round ball of garlic instead of nice, easy to use cloves. I'm spreading these about 3 inches apart, just so that they've got room to develop individually. Now this is a fairly sad sight, my Tuscan kale. I'll harvest what I can of it. It's been absolutely infested with these little bugs, and so the harvest has been very dry and quite poor. But I'm going to have to pull up these, which are these summer's plants, which a lot of them have gone over early. And so we'll just harvest what we can in greens from these. And then I think all of this will have to get ripped up and chucked onto the compost. Picking all of this baby kale really gives me an idea to combine it with my spinach and maybe some of my silver beet. I think perhaps it's a little bit late in the day to start a baking project today, so I think we might have an idea for tomorrow. This is a really important job now that it's getting really quite cold. We're expecting some frosty nights very, very soon. And so these plants, which are a little bit more tender, like my avocado tree here, need to start moving inside. So that's a job for this weekend. If you haven't already moved all of your tender plants in and you're in a spot where it gets quite cold, at least very soon, it's a good time to move these. So the first step in using up my greens and all of those lovely fresh garden herbs is to make the pancakes. Now what I've got here is just a very basic pancake batter, which is just a half cup of self-raising flour, about a half cup of regular plain flour, 1 large egg, and I'd say maybe a cup and a half of milk, so it's quite runny. And all I'm going to do is just fry these pancakes up just like you normally would. These are a thin pancake, and the idea is that we're making something that we can use to roll up. So a little bit thin is better than a little bit thick, and you want them to be pretty well rounded. The next step is to start the filling. Now that my pancakes are cooked and set aside, I've got my kale that I picked and my spinach, and I'm just popping it all into a great big fry pan to wilt down. Now I crush in 3 fat cloves of garlic, and I put a drizzle of olive oil now that the liquid has started to cook out of it, just to stop it sticking to the pan. I've got about 1/3 of a cup of sour cream now, which I'm going to stir in, and then I'm going to add about a cup of grated cheese. I'm using Gouda, but any regular cheese that you use for cooking will work, cheddar, whatever. And I'm also going to add about a cup of svježi sir, which is Croatian for fresh cheese. But if you use something like cottage cheese or anything with that sort of texture, that should work as well. Then I'm going to turn this down and cook it on a low heat until all of this liquid that you can see that's come off of my greens and sour cream just simmers down till it's nice and thick and we don't really have any more of this runny liquid left. This will take a little while. Now that that's cooked pretty much done, there's no real liquid left in there, I'm just going to chop in a whole lot of my fresh chives from the garden, nice and fine. I'm just using scissors, and I'm going to stir those through, a big handful of chives. This will give us a nice bitey flavour and really add some nice green zing, because the spinach and the kale have all been cooked down till it's basically mush, you can see there. And so that means that this will add a little bit more texture to the bake. Now comes the fun bit, building our little rolls. So I'm going to grab just a little glob of my filling, lay it across the entire pancake in the middle, kind of spreading it out a little bit. And then I'm going to roll him up and place him in my pan. Just going to do this to fill up the entire of the bottom of my baking tray. Now, on top of my pancakes, I'm just smearing a little bit of sour cream on top, and then I'm just going to add, it's probably only maybe 2 tablespoons of sour cream, just to give it a bit of a topping. And then I'm going to just pop some cheese on top. Then I'm going to pop it in a 180-ish degree oven for about half an hour, just till it crisps up nicely and we've got all of that cheese melted on top. This looks and smells so good. If you're into nice hot autumnal dinners full of lovely fresh greens from the garden, this is a bake for you. Well, this is exciting. This is my first calendula seed that I can store. That's these lovely, thick, curly things that are on the outside of these. They'll tell you when they're ready to be collected, is because they look like they're about to fall off the plant. Nature is the guide. Now, in a lot of places you can actually sow these now, because they will take a little bit of cold, but I don't want to risk it. For me, this harvest of calendula seeds has been so much in the waiting and so precious, oh, that one's not quite ready, that I'm going to save them and sow them in spring, because here it's a little bit touch and go whether you'll make it all the way through winter. But on that positive note, I think that's all we've got time for. If you're new to the channel, please remember to subscribe. If you want notifications, use the bell icon below. And if you like what we're doing, please like the video. And until next time then, do widzenia.